Hey everybody, what'd you think of the show? Always a refreshing start to these when you guys are happy with the program proceeding. My name is Ben Travers. I'm IndieWire's TV critic, and I have the privilege to welcome a slew of the Glow cast members tonight, all to answer a few of your great questions that we've got right here, and a few of my hopefully helpful questions as well. But we're going to get things started right away, as they are eager to talk to you. And first things first, we're going to bring out Mariana Polka.
So excited to be here. Thank you for having us.
Next up is Britt Barron. The one and only Chris Lowell.
Yeah.
Rebecca Johnson.
She wore the same outfit as Britt.
Kimmy Gatewood.
Right.
Yeah, Kimmy.
Kia Stevens.
Yeah, Kia.
She walked so far. You had to come all the way to the end. And Allison Brie. Betty Gilpin. Kate Nash. And of course, Sunita Mani.
Woo, Suni, yeah.
Predictable as always.
Always here.
Gorgeous.
I had to do something.
All right, everybody got their mics, feeling like talking, excited?
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, I'd like to start at the beginning of this because I've been lucky enough to talk to a few of you and obviously read up a little bit on the casting process, but it sounds like a very fascinating procedure. Like just the whole thing sounds amazing, and obviously this is such a great cast that they brought together. And Miss Brie, first and foremost, please talk a little bit about how you came on board this, because from what you've told me before, they didn't necessarily want a name in the lead role. They kind of wanted a nobody.
Name. They did not want a name, nor did they want me for the part. It was interesting. My agents had called me and just pitched me the idea of, Jenji Kohan is producing a show about women's wrestling in the 80s. And I was like, yes, when can I go in? What's happening? And they were like, well, we don't know. They had me look it up. I read the script. It was amazing. I had been taking some other meetings with showrunners. So I called them back to be like, so when can I sit down with Jenji? And my agent was like, oh, I don't think this one's really going to be like that. It's more going to be like, may the best actor win. And I was like, great, thank you so much. It's like the worst thing an agent could say to someone before going to audition for something. Great, so if I don't get it, the only reason is because I was not good and everyone else was better. But then I got it, so it's fine. And then it was a long process. It actually really, jokes aside, it was a lot of, I think, my agents calling them and sort of saying, will you see? And finally they said that they would let me come in and read and do a pre-read with casting, which I was like, definitely great. I was so excited. I went in and read with Jen Houston, our casting director, and we also had to do a little interview, or I did, about how much physical activity I did, what workouts I did, and stuff like that. And there was also sort of a short, maybe it was meant to be a rap, like it is on the show, but I did it more as a monologue, which I think just reinforced that I was meant to be this character. And like improvised a bit in the Zoya character, which I would later realize was going to be my main wrestling character. And then I came in again for producers, and then I was flown to Toronto to read with Betty in a room filled with no one. We put ourselves on tape together in Toronto, and then we read again for all our producers and our director, Jesse Peretz, in Los Angeles, and got the part. So it was a longer process than I had imagined, but every step of the way, I think I just felt more and more like the character who's fighting to get on this wrestling show. And I think that desperation was coming through. Normally, I would say that's a really bad thing to show when you're auditioning. But in this case, I guess it worked out. It was sort of how the character is,
Well, I mean, Miss Gilpin, I believe that last audition, that fourth one that was in Los Angeles, that was, what, 5 days before your wedding? Because you went through a lot of auditions as well. Like, this was an intense process.
Yeah. Yes, it was, I think 4 days before my wedding. I put myself on tape like a couple months before that, and then auditioned again in person, and then I think again, and then with Allie in Toronto, and then flew out right before my wedding, which was a crazy experience. But I was, conversely, my agents were like, they're looking for no names, unknowns, so you have a chance. I was like, made me feel like the prettiest girl at the dance. But I was pretty convinced it wasn't going to happen. I was just, when I first read the script, I didn't think that kind of thing could exist, that so perfectly was exactly what my dream was. I hadn't really let myself dream that far. And I had so many close calls with Jen Houston, actually, as a casting director, and was pretty convinced that it wasn't going to happen. So I never really even let myself go there. And yeah.
Betty and I have laughed a lot about our first time meeting each other in Toronto to audition for this, and then getting coffee after, during which we both just were trying to act like we didn't really care, like just keeping wow, that's so cool that you're getting married, and so am I, and if we did this show, how great would that, but
bye.
And that whole process was such a strange audition anyway, because Betty was shooting American Gods in Toronto, so I flew there to go on tape with her, thinking that our producers would be there since I had just read with them, or at least or our casting director Jen Houston, or like anyone who maybe would give a note or something in the audition. And I get to Toronto, and it's just me and Betty, and I think they had, they were just trying to make it work to get something on tape to show to Netflix as soon as possible, but it ended up being just like this other casting director who had to come into her office on a Sunday, who was like, came in the room with Jen Houston on speakerphone and was like, and Jen Houston was like, girls, just have fun. And we were like, okay, bye. And then 2 casting assistants were just like left alone in the room with us. And Betty and I went to the bathroom together. We're like, I'm up for anything, are you? Yeah. Meeting for the first time. And then did these scenes, one of which was the final scene in the very first episode where we have a big fight in the ring that turns into a fantasy wrestling match. And we just were fully wrestling because we didn't have a casting. There was no one of authority in the room. There were just 2 young kids, one with a piece of paper and one next to the camera. And Betty's dragging me across the ground, and we're fully wrestling. And finally we just stopped and we're like, and they were like, yeah, I think that's good.
Don't do it again. That's the one.
We got it.
Well, I mean, for the rest of you, this is the life of an actor. You guys have to go on auditions. You got to put yourself on tape. You got to get out there, and you got to face a lot of rejection. But you made it. You got the roles. Looking back, kind of on your own processes for this, was there anything about what you did when you put yourself on tape, or when you got to audition for people that kind of stood out to you, where you're like, I think this is a really good idea. I thought this was something that maybe helped me stand out and get their attention, or just separate myself from the pack.
I think we could probably speak.
Yeah, Kimmy and I have worked together for 10 years as a comedy
in a comedy group. So we got to audition together, and
Which never happens.
Yeah.
It's the first time it's ever
Normally
happened.
we're auditioning for the same parts, and and neither of us get them. So.
Bunch of no names for no names.
But a lot of our audition, like our script was mostly supposed to be improvised, but we spent a lot of time kind of like improvising together, like a few hours, writing the best jokes.
They were like, come up with
different
one
characters.
tag team character.
We
In
came
our
up with
callback, we came with 5.
Yeah, and we walked in and we were like, we're gonna do 3
We
to
had
5
mom's
characters
80s
for
jeans,
you.
teased hair. We were like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we were like, well, we do comedy, so they don't want us for our athletic ability. And yeah, so we just like busted our asses trying to come up with the best comedic shit. And
We weren't sure what the characters were. In fact, when we first got the part, they were 2 stand-up comedians, like Paula Poundstones, with their giant, like,
Still dressed
shoulders.
like that, though.
Yeah,
Yeah,
still do-
sometimes. Yeah.
We ended up being like, rock and roll hairdressers, but like nobody really knew what Stacey and Dawn were. In fact, it was like Tracy before. They didn't really know who our characters were, so we just like 100% put ourselves in the role. So.
Yeah, and then we like did all these characters, then they just talked to us for 15 minutes and liked how
We told the story about
overlap
finding out
dialogue.
pregnancy. Yeah, overlapping dialogue.
Then they just wrote it in. So, and then we did get the part.
We got it. We only had to audition twice, though.
Yeah.
Once
We got off
for the
easy,
first
baby.
audition, and then the callback. So that's the trade-off.
I feel like Kate also made a very special video.
And I'm like,
you
what?
should speak in case why?
What did I do? I guess I was in England, I was in London. I actually just moved from LA back to London in June and was planning to be in London for like a year. And I just did an audition scene, a normal audition scene, and then I just got really into Glow, the original Glow, and all of these 80s skits. And then I watched loads of 80s TV and adverts, like commercials and like British 80s TV, like dating shows and stuff. And I just wanted to make something that felt like that. So I filmed in my house a weird 80s like bad rap skit where I was wearing pigtails and there's a skeleton in my mum's living room on display, and I was like using the skeleton to talk about science.
I didn't know that.
And there's my mum's
There's a
nurse, but
skeleton in your
there's
mother's
a dead
living
body
room?
in my living room. I use it in audition tapes sometimes.
Trophy.
It
Breezed
worked.
over that detail.
And I remember being really scared. I was doing a forward roll. I was so scared to do it. Like just the basic like kid ones. I was like, oh God, like I haven't done that since I was a little kid. And I knew the show was going to be really physical. And I was like, I can't believe I'm so fucking scared to do this. And then I remember using my mum's books and I like threw them on the ground and I was like screaming and like rolling around. And I showed my mum and she was like, I wouldn't throw your stuff around like that. That was the first thing she said to me. And I was like, Mum, okay, I'm really sorry, but this audition's really important to me. Yeah. And then like I showed my dad the trailer for the documentary. I have 2 sisters, and who I think really helped me prepare for this role growing up, because we just beat each other up all the time as children and teenagers and adults. And I remember my dad.
One of them is the skeleton.
My dad. Yeah, that was my older sister who's not with us anymore. Should we keep her in the living room? And my dad just laughed and was like, looks like the Nash household growing up. And so I just really related to the whole concept of like women fighting each other, but also loving each other and having this weird bond through like something physical. And it also, I'm a musician, and it just felt like this weird blend of like live performance within, like everyone's a rock star, you know, like all of us get to be rock stars together in the ring, and it's like this special blend. So I was obviously like, I need this, I'm gonna get this. Like, and I was at a point where I felt like I didn't believe I was getting any acting roles. I was like, well, I have, you know, I'm not gonna really do this, but I had a special connection with Glow, as I think everybody did, and I was willing to do whatever it took to get the part, but you never know, so.
Well, after you guys got the part, and obviously you kind of touched on this a little bit just in the planning of it, but you knew that this was going to be a big physical challenge. Like this was, there was a lot of training that was going to be involved. I'm curious what your expectations were going in as to like kind of what the training would be like and what you'd have to do versus what the reality of the training actually was.
That's such a good question. I feel like we
I feel like for me at least, I thought that there was going to be more of a kind of like rigorous, like kind of militant training. Like I thought it was kind of about
more puking,
getting,
like boot camp.
Yeah, like
I thought we were
getting
gonna be
like
puking.
extra fit
Squats.
Yeah, like running
and,
through
like,
tires.
Yeah,
and, like,
and I thought we were supposed to like all get a little skinnier in that time and like drink green juice the whole time and just be like really into it. And then when I figured out the first day that it really wasn't about that and that we were just there because we were required to be strong, whatever we look like, and that it was really about our will, then I was like, whoa, this is gonna change the fucking world, the show. Like I went home and I was like, Mom, this is fucking cool. Like these ladies are awesome.
I feel like I came into training pumped, like, let's go! And day one was like what Kate was talking about, was just like forward rolls. And we were like videoing them on my phone. And I got home to show my husband to be like, look what we did. And he's just like, oh, you somersaults. Like, you know, we took everything so slowly in the beginning because, you know, they're very concerned with our safety and wanting us to be able to do this for hours and weeks and hopefully years.
Decades.
But and our trainers are so amazing. Chavo Guerrero Jr. is our wrestling trainer, and Shauna Duggins is our stunt coordinator, and Helena Barrett. We have like a whole team that break down the moves and teach them to us, and it ended up also being this really incredibly empowering and bonding thing for all of us, being very vulnerable in the ring with each other, with our bodies. And, you know, I think it felt like it was going so slow. Like we're like, and when am I jumping off the top rope? But suddenly everything came together, and next thing you know, you've had all the pieces to do a suplex, to do a head scissor, to do a body slam. And like Kia being there was so amazing because Kia is a professional wrestler and ended up being like one of our coaches. It was so invaluable to have her on the show with us and in the ring while we were learning, which also you were so gracious about. I was like, why do you want to be here every day? You kind of know how to do it. But it was like the most valuable thing. Any girl here will tell you that being in the ring with Kia is like wrestling on a cloud. It's like you've never felt safer or stronger. She's just so incredible.
Also, Kia like notices things about us because you know us in a different way. I feel like sometimes when we're learning something, Kia will be like, you're doing this and you should do this, because you kind of know us on a personal level in a different way.
I also think it's important. I just like, for me, I didn't do any of the training, obviously, but in the finale, it was the first time I really got to see what all of y'all had accomplished, and it was just, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if it's clear enough to you guys watching, but like that's them. That's Sunita doing flips and Betty jumping off the frickin' turnbuckle, and I mean the scissor thing one of you do with Ellen, it's fucking crazy. And I just remember sitting there that whole week watching y'all do it and just being just completely blown away, because y'all all worked so damn hard every day, and then it would be in between scenes they'd be rushing you off to train. It was just, I mean, it's astonishing what y'all pulled off.
They,
we love you.
Right? Yeah.
Wow, we love him. My God.
Being a wrestler, watching them learn was like watching a wrestler being born, and it was really, really, really precious. And they were, it was, and that's what was precious for me. You guys took it slow, and they had the hearts of like, yeah, what did we get to learn? You know, that. And it was kind of like that scene in Karate Kid where he's like, I've been waxing your car and, you know, doing this and painting. What have I learned? And then once Chavo showed them what they did learn, they're like, oh, we did learn that. We did know how to do that. And it was awesome to see that.
It's such a, like, the technical stuff is obviously what we all want to like be good at, but it comes from like an endless supply of giggles and like clowning. Like when we do the forward rolls and everyone like takes a turn, it's just, we started to like bring out our characters a little bit more, and I also thought it would be like really technical from the beginning on, but it was really just like becoming a kid again, and we would just like do roles in our character, and just for 14 people to like just do a forward roll so differently and distinctly and like so stupidly, like, but so brilliant. Like it just is I feel like it's the reason why we can do a wrestling match, a finale with like the technical stuff, because we just really want to be, I don't know, like,
I think that
do a
like
good job.
The interesting part of that too was that Chavo was also teaching us, and Kia, like the philosophy behind wrestling, and also things about being in character and things that a heel would do versus things that a face would do. And I feel like that helped for everything to click into place. When there would be days where we'd be like scared to commit to a move, you know, Chavo would be like, how would Zoya do it? And you're suddenly like, fuck yeah, you know? I don't know.
We learned to respect the culture too. Like, I think we all walked into I knew of wrestling, I didn't know anything about it, and we all, because of Chavo and Kia, like, we really respect wrestling. We respect the culture of it and we wanted to do right by that, you know?
I feel like
the
now
details became important to us.
When
We're like,
people
I need
call
my
it
footwork
fake,
to be good.
I'm like,
it's not fake.
Yeah, I beat them up
Because
when they say that.
Chavo, you really do. I think we all have such an incredible respect because it's not fake. You can't fake falling on your back or flipping yourself. So I think we all do have such an incredible respect for professional wrestling. I mean,
Fake is like the worst four-letter F word to say to a wrestler. It's just like
the worst four-letter word that starts with an F.
But they all had such a respect for where I came from that it was really, really touching, because wrestlers, we are extremely sensitive. And I mean, like, extremely, like in wrestling, if you don't come and shake someone's hand, they're like, we are sensitive people, because it's all about respect, and you guys had it down.
Well, kind of shifting a little bit, but still speaking about kind of a valuable shift in perspective, I really wanted to talk about episode 3, because there's a scene in the 3rd episode where Bash is kind of at his party, and he's assigning these characters to your characters. He's assigning, you know, the wrestling personas that are going to be there, and they're all kind of stereotypes, and you come to realize that, and then the characters start picking their own identities and choosing their own paths. And first and foremost, I just wanted to know what it was like reading that script, and if it was as powerful to read the script as it was for us to watch it, because to me it was one of the best scenes of the year, and it really drew the right attention to what this show is capable of.
Cool. It was terrifying.
It definitely was
terrifying.
Okay.
That was really cool.
No, I just think it's one of the things that Liz and Carly do so brilliantly on the show is they find these ways to address these very complicated issues without offering like an answer necessarily, but just sort of more bringing attention to it and not trying to solve it in 30 minutes, but sort of giving it the respect that it deserves to kind of be figured out by these people in their own time. So I think it's also not something where you see Sam or Bash assigning these stereotype personas on all of these women, and then in one fell swoop they all collectively decide to abandon them. It's, you know, it's a different journey for different people. You've got, and I think that's such a respectful approach to such a complicated. I think it would be a detriment to these kinds of issues if it was just sort of taken care of in like a montage sequence. You know what I mean? So you have certain people like. You know, you have Siddell's character Cherry, who is kind of fine to be junk chain because she's been stepped on and overlooked for so many years. She just wants a freaking part. Whereas you've got more confident, you know, Betty's character who basically upstate, you know, like you have certain people who are claiming their identities before others. And I think that in and of itself is just like one of Liz and Carly's many brilliant strokes of genius in terms of how they lay out the stories.
One of the things that was great, like, about that episode is that Liz and Carly had wrote something that happened to me without even knowing that happened to me. In the beginning of my wrestling career, I had an opportunity to go to Japan, and at the time when I first got into wrestling, first of all, when you first get into wrestling, you want to live out all your fantasies that you see on the TV. So your very first like wrestling character is always something you want to live out. And mine was Vixen. And I wore patent leather,
That's
and you
right.
couldn't tell me nothing because I knew everything. However, I had an opportunity to go to Japan, and I had only been wrestling for 2 months, and they named me, and they named me Amazing Kong, and I didn't know. In fact, I went to training one day, and when the Japanese guys came and said Kong, and I was like, what the fuck you say? What you call me? You don't do that here. We don't, no. And so, like, he had to bring out a magazine and show and read to me and show me that they had announced that when I come out there and debut in a week and a half, that I was debuting as Amazing Kong, and no one had even talked to me about it. And I had a week and a half to figure out, is this what I'm gonna do? And I went home and I thought about it, and an NWA song came on. And I said, you know what, if they could be niggas with attitude, I could be Kong. Because it's the N-word. So, but they took that and they owned that. And you can't hear NWA and not respect that. So I said, I'll be Kong, but I'm gonna make it a name that everybody fucking respects. And they do.
Woo! Yes. I love that story so much.
Well, kind of continue with that idea of the show, and you touched a little bit on it, like in the audition process, how you got to contribute a little bit that turned up in the show. How much did you guys get to contribute to your individual characters, whether it's something that was, you know, off the wrestling mat or within it, like within your wrestling personas? Like, did they talk to you about that and kind of come up with those personas and all together, or is it all just kind of on the page?
Mostly written, like even though we had all those characters in the audition, like still what they wrote for us is different than what we came up with. I think they just took the like skill set or the personality, like certain things about like all of our characters. We were like, oh, that's kind of like this part of me, you know. And so it's more like we would always be like, do they have microphones like listening to us, or like are they just recording our conversations? Because
We
like
call them glowmans. There's things that happen in real life that happen in
so-
Glow all the time, and it's very scary.
Yeah, it would show up in a script, and you'd be like, you guys are listening to what we said, or, you know, rather than...
Yeah, I think they were planning on writing out the beatdown biddies a little bit sooner until Rebecca and I just ran with the bit so hard. In fact, they wrote us, the way it was written originally was like, I'm Ethel, and I'm Edna, and we're old! And that was it. And we just like pitched them 100 different jokes, and that all made it into the show, which was great.
Paid per word.
Yeah. So we just don't stop talking.
I do feel like our writers and Liz and Carly are very in tune to all the women on the show, and especially people who maybe didn't have a lot of written lines in the first few episodes of the first season. You guys were always improvising. Everyone was improvising, and I think a lot of the stuff that made it into the show are improvised moments from the group. When you see big group scenes, that there's a lot of that in there, and then they kind of use those things to go. I don't know. I feel like I have similarities to Ruth and everything. I feel like they're writing this character. I'm not improvising a lot, but I can feel the melding happening on a daily basis where I'm like, I'm turning into her, or she's turning into me. We were always the same. Like.
All right, well, we're gonna go right down the line really quick, and then we're gonna get to some audience questions, because you guys got great audience questions, by the way. Nice job writing those in. But we're gonna go with favorite wrestling move, and then also the hardest one to learn for each of your characters, like just kind of throughout this process, throughout season 1 or season 2, if you'd like to talk about that.
Favorite move and the hardest one to learn. Yes. I think my favorite move so far is probably the Viking Vag move, because it was inspired by my vagina hair. That's how we got there. Because they got me to grow my underarm hair and my vagina hair for the character. Too much information. But we were talking about it in the ring one day, and I was like, what would be a move that like you could see like all the hair that my character has, because I feel like that's so badass. And that was something I was kind of going for. And so Chavo was like, he's like, we could do the Bronco Buster probably, and just like you could shake your head around, it would look really good. And I was like, okay, so we did it, and then I just was so proud that it like came out of this other thing that no one really knows, you know. But that I think that the hardest one for me has just been back bumps because I'm so tall and I'm not a wrestler. You know, I like came in and I like my first forward roll was like with Kia and she was so nice to me about it, but like she really helped so much. But the thing about back bumps is like you kind of have to accept that you're gonna die and then just do it anyway, you know? And then you have to do that like 1,000 times. And I think you have to land on this part of your back that you never ever land on. And so it just is so amazing. And I've never had the opportunity to like be in a room of people who are 14 women who are just there for me and screaming like that I should be, you know, that they love me and I'm gonna do it, like, and they believe in me. So like I think that really helped me with the back bumps and now I'm good at them.
Yeah. My hardest move is also the back bumps. It's so scary, especially when you're first learning them. And my favorite move is one that I learned this year after I saw the fantasy fight where Allie like jumps on the ropes and jumps backwards. What's that called?
When you jump backwards,
I like jump up and over.
Oh,
up and over.
Yeah, so you jump in the corner and then Chavo, our trainer, would run underneath and you get so much air. It's really fun. You like fly. So that's
She learned it in like 3 minutes. I was there that day. She learned it.
I was dying to learn it after I saw it.
Picked it up so fast.
Favorite move, where to begin?
Chris?
Yeah.
Chris.
There's a lot
What was
of
the
options,
hardest
sir.
Season
move
3,
to
you're
learn?
going to be in the ring.
I think Mark and I were kind of racing to see who could take the biggest, longest, most broad pratfalls getting into the ring, and I feel like Mark fucking won.
Because it's real.
Because it's real. Yeah. Because I'm like really hamming it up, and Mark's just like actually trying as hard as he can to get into the ring. Yeah, I guess that's mine.
I have to say back bumps as well. I feel like I never got a back bump last year. Like literally last year, everyone got them by the end except me. And
me.
then they would just be like, some people are good at some things and some just aren't. Like, you know,
hurts
Chavo's
so bad
voice went
when
like very high. But this year, I like came in and was just determined to do it. And now I can. So I think it's just about believing in yourself. And my favorite move is like a 3/4 roll where you kind of like
yes.
jump in the air and then land on your back.
That
So I
one.
like landing on my back from the front, not from the back. That could be sexual. No, but I like the 3/4 roll. It's like you're flying. It's like you're in a roller coaster, but it's just like just you. And yeah, I like it.
That was my favorite one too, actually. It's like,
I like a good old-fashioned splash. Those are fun. And I'll have to say the move that got away from me was the Pat O'Connor. Fuck that fucking move. So close.
Explain it.
It's like you shove someone into the ring and you fall back with them, you flip them over yourself, and then you end up sitting on them like they're your trophy. And I couldn't get all the way over. It was such a bummer. I'll get it, though.
Next year.
you got it in bits. You got it in chunks.
You said I got it in chunk?
In 3 chunks.
Oh,
you
3
got
chunks,
it.
yeah.
Just
I got the first 2
It
chunks.
really is about chunks.
Kimmy, meet me in the ring tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Okay, yes,
6
Kia.
a.m.
We'll
Yes,
get it
master.
down for you. We will get it down for you.
A move that's difficult for me is that it's like difficult and favorite, right? I want to get the sunset flip. It was hard, but it's not once you get it, and it's like Betty did it in the first season, right? And I can't tell you any more about the second season, what happens with sunset flips, but it's like you've like kind of rainbow over someone and then you swipe your nose down their butt crack and like pull them down. You kind of like, it's like being a dolphin and like.
Yeah, dolphin riding a rainbow.
Yeah, it's like
into
a dolphin
someone's crotch.
riding a rainbow and then you kind of bring them down and like pin them.
And then you land in front of them like you're their baby for a second.
It's cool. I've done it like okay once, but we moved on from it. I want to get it. It's my favorite move. I like the schoolboy. It's like where you're behind someone and you kind of like bring them into your belly button, like on the way down, and then like roll over them, like and then you're like a triangle on top of them. It's shapes. It's all shapes and chunks.
Like, does anyone understand what the moves are
Yeah,
from when we're like, you know,
We are all
We're like, yeah, that
Not-
move.
We know what they're.
I'm the same as Kimmy. The Pat O'Connor fucked me up. I couldn't get that guy.
You also
Yeah,
got
I
it
just
in
couldn't
chunks.
come. It was like a lot of force. I don't know. You really get to know your body with what it can and can't do. And my favorite, I love taking a front bump. I think it's from all the fights I did with my sisters. I just like, there's something about just slamming. I feel so confident about it. I can just like do it all day, and we did in our scene all day. 8 hours. It was really fun. Actually, in our scene, remember you, because Suni did a 3/4 roll. She like puts me in a front bump, and then I'm down on the floor, and she does a somersault basically, or 3/4 roll.
Flip onto your chest,
onto myself,
stomach. Yeah.
Yeah, and the first take, like Liz and Carly and the director came running over, and they're like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And we're like, "We're selling the
actors."
Yeah.
Kate, what about the time you kicked Chavo in the balls?
Oh yeah, that time. Yeah, I kicked Chavo in the balls accidentally, just when I was learning to do like a,
Just like for fun, but
just because he was
Cool.
being a dick, and I was not gonna have it. No,
was
he
an
took it really
accident.
well though. I just was not getting enough height basically with the move, and I was kicking. I'm supposed to kick him, like jump up, kick him, and then flip over and take a front bump.
Drop kick.
Drop kick. And but I just was way low. Way low. Kicked him in the nuts. I was like, "Oh my God, I did it!" And then he was just like,
He went into the corner of the
went into
ring
the
and
corner
was quiet for like
silently
5
and
minutes.
he didn't do the classic like, oh, he was just like,
So slow, so slow, so sad.
yeah. Sorry, Chavo.
My favorite is probably the sunset flip, and least favorite is receiving a drop kick. I remember we did that together. Yeah. Well, it's just scary because you have to you have to push your body into. Yeah. Yeah. And he was like, right here, just press it into her. I'm like, my breast and heart? Yeah. I'm not going to
Yes.
really
That's great. My favorite might also be the sunset flip. I've been really enjoying
Ever.
it this year. It just comes so naturally. Just kidding. Just kidding. And I think maybe my least favorite might be front bumps, actually. I feel like in training I took a bad one on my knees early on, and so it just scares me a little.
Whoa, that's amazing, Allie.
I think working with you all, my favorite move is anything I have to base for you guys, and you guys do something really cool, because I've only spent 15 years basing, so if I don't have it down by now, so whenever you guys do something really cool and I've got you, that's my favorite part, because you guys, the look on your face when you do it, you're like, oh, you see it, it was fantastic, but you did all the work. That's my favorite, and I think the least favorite is any move where I have fallen and now I must get up.
No, that sounds accurate for everyone. Yeah. Well, our first audience question comes from Mina, and it's for everybody.
Mina?
Yes, Mina.
Mina.
With an M.
Amazing.
And she asks, I've read some articles about becoming more empowered as a result of all the physicality that was required for wrestling. Can you speak more to that and what it was like, particularly as a woman? So to become more empowered as a result of the physicality of wrestling.
The circle of emotional healing that happens every day in the ring that we have is so profound. And to be able to be physical in the way that we're asked to be physical, but to be able to just be there in a way that isn't actually being objectified, is like it was the healing of my entire life. Like it just brought everything to a conclusion that had ever happened that wasn't great in the world, and it just changed everything about how I saw people and how I see what it is to be a woman. Like I thought I knew what it was to be a woman, but I didn't. And now I do.
This is us all day. This is us all day.
Yeah, it is.
You guys, fate.
I was just gonna say the empowering part that's like, it's easier to hear but harder to understand until you feel it, is like learning your strengths and actually being okay with like what you have to offer, because it's we learn all these moves and some people are you know, more naturally inclined to do sunset flips and some of us aren't. But it's like 1,000% concentrate support. It's like we really have no judgment, and it all sounds like lofty, but we were really feeling like that the whole time, which is why I think we could be as fearless as we were, and to like walk into someone putting their body on the line and like just give it, and then like you're just giving and taking so much in spandex leotards. It's like there's a lot of self-acceptance that has to happen to just stand there in front of a lot of people and like and stretch and like really trust each other. It was yeah, I think the distinction between learn like how much we learn about ourselves like through the physical exercise and then being actually okay with that and like working on that part of yourself, but not like neglecting your weaker whatever, like the things you're not as strong at, but like really accepting what you have to offer.
I think as an actress, and maybe male actors feel this way too, Chris, let me know. It's really easy to get lost along the way or let this business convince you that what is valuable about you and needed from you is not the parts of you that are the reason you got into this. Like, I feel like something that joins a lot of us is that, I became an actor because I feel like half maniacal clown toddler and half like ghosty, Emily Dickinson, sad, like weird person. And I want to like use my full capacity and crack my ribs open and scream at the sky and make the stupidest faces possible. And, when you're a lady, sometimes they're like, oh no, actually being an actress is just be like a government mermaid that's really good at Snapchat. And you're like, well, wait, and like use like 2% of your capability because, just make yourself small and pretty and young, and then you'll expire. And this show and wrestling, we were required to use our entire capacity and our whole bodies, head to toe, literally, and not in a male gazy way and not in a posing way. And it made me reconnect with why I became an actor and that like clown ghost side. And that is invaluable to me.
Chills. I feel like we also now are able to like help. There is so much love when we're like trying to do something and somebody can't, and you feel like we are trying to teach each other a little bit now. And you see Chavo is like so proud of us when we're like, no, okay, well this is how I'm doing it, and maybe this is like going to work for you because I couldn't do it before. Don't worry about it, and like you're going to be able to do it next time. And I don't know, like a lot of emotion comes out with physicality, and I think a lot of the time we forget how much our like physical and mental health is connected. And there's things, if I have anything going on, something happens in the ring and I'm just like, and it like literally like bumps it out of you.
Cleanses it out.
Yeah. And then to be able to do stuff that you're like shit scared of and overcome these fears, and I don't know, you see people do things and you think, oh, you must have trained since you came out of the womb to be able to do that, and I've written off so many things, and it made me think, wow, what else can I do? I didn't think I could do any of this, and maybe I can do so many other things I didn't think in so many ways. And so it's completely changed my life. And yeah, I just feel so, I think Kia, you said the other day, it's like feeling so emotionally safe with each other. And that's how we feel, like we know, like we trust each other to have each other's backs, because physically we have to do that. And we had a month of that before going into shooting. So on the first day we were like so connected. And I know all of these people will just show up for me if I needed, like, I feel like I could call anyone here at 3 a.m. and be like, fuck. And they would just like put their boots on and come and get me if I needed.
What are you talking about, Mar?
Yeah.
Right outside your door.
No clothes, just boots.
We are close.
No clothes, just
This is us all day. Sometimes it's frustrating for the crew because we're like little chatty Cathys, but when
we're never this quiet all day.
We're quiet right now. We're being so respectful for you guys. Quiet, actually.
It's like it's at a 2 right now. When you say, yeah, we bring it up, but that's part of it too. That you're able to talk with, you know, a dozen women and it not be dramatic or have egos being thrown everywhere. Yeah. We're just like one little squad and all day long, right?
Totally. I think that also speaks to just how many women are on our set and work on our show. And, you know, definitely going through this process of realizing that our bodies are capable of extraordinary and different things, and that we can use them for things that are different than what we thought before, and going on that journey together at the same time, I think was really exciting. And then getting on to set and being in almost no clothing. I've never been on a more body positive set, and I've never been on a set with this many women, you know, and also having women at the top, having a show run by women who make sure that 60% of our directors every season are women, and that we have women on the crew, and like just having 14 of us in the cast, it's like, it's our set, you know? And I think we all own it. We have a fucking blast. We have so much fun. We take big risks. We get really vulnerable, you know, but we also just have a great time, and we don't, because of everything else that everyone's been saying, it's like not a typical type of set that I've been on before where people are talking about the calories they're counting. We're more like, did you get the suplex? What happened? You know what I mean? Or not, or whatever. Like, just, I think it makes me feel more comfortable and confident all the time just to be around so many confident women.
I also have never
Allie had a wedgie for 2 days, and she did not care. Do you remember
that? Wedgie every day.
The first week she had like this wonderful wedgie, and I mean, it was just part of the deal. It was
that was beautiful.
Do you remember the wedgie you had?
I remember it.
Because the wardrobe kept coming up to me and being like, "Do you want us to glue the sides of your leotard to your butt?" And I was like, "They need to see it."
Yes.
That's why we got a second season, was that wedgie.
Well, I think we've got time for about 2 more questions. So the next one comes from someone who was actually on that set. Edith has a question for the cast. She says, first and foremost, she was hired as a featured extra on Glow, and that is how she got her SAG card.
Nice. All right, Edith.
Yeah, union, baby, yeah.
So she wanted to thank everybody for that, first and foremost. But the question is, what advice would you give to new actors who are trying to break into the business?
I got my SAG card on extra work as well. And yes. And I feel like, you know, just honestly, it took a long time to get to this place where I'm at now, and I've just busted my butt. And I also did other things in the business. I write and direct and act, and we did comedy, we do improv and sketch, and I feel like you just like don't stop and do the thing you love and follow your passion, because like I'm passionate about playing ridiculous old ladies, and how the hell, like I love Golden Girls, and now like that's what I'm doing.
We did it!
What? Yeah. So
yes,
I feel you.
Yeah. And I would say make friends and be kind to your other actors, because you don't know where you're all going to end up, and you will rely on each other for years to come. It's not a competition. It's just like we're all going to get there.
I think having a good support team is also like really important. I thought I was going to quit acting a week before I got Glow. And I had called my mom and I had a big fight. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't be told no again and again and again and get callbacks and get little parts every 4 or 5 months maybe. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna get a real job with health insurance and feel like an adult. But I think having family or friends or roommates, I was lucky enough to have people in my life who really forced me in times where I think most actors starting off, especially in the city, everyone has those like down moments where you're like, well, this is rock bottom. Maybe I'll go just quit. So I think having people when you can't be your own cheerleader who are on your side or in your side of the ring, you know, in your corner.
Whoa!
What is she talking about?
Low men.
Low men.
All right, and then the last question we've got time for. Toya T, for everyone again, mentions that Allison has a scene where she reads the man's role because it was meatier. So this is the scene from the first episode. I think it's the first scene of the series. And the question is, have any of you ever done that or something similar in an audition or been tempted to?
I actually quoted that with my music career recently. I was like, I will not be bullied into submission on an email. And I was like, yes. So I haven't done that, but I have used that exact line in my music career.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
Yes.
Rebecca and I went in for, we were going in for roles they were like friends. And so we were like, oh, we'll read it together. We'll go in together because that's why people cast us, because we go into things together. And we got there and they're like, oh, no. It didn't go well. They made us read separately and it went terrible. But yeah, I don't know how that would work in real life, but don't do that.
Probably as well as it worked for Ruth.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
I feel like I've asked before where people have been like, come in and read for this role. And I've been like, oh, I'm not going to. But could I read for this role? Exactly. And they're just like, no. I feel like where Ruth, I mean, it didn't go great for her either, but kind of. But like, is don't ask for permission.
Forgiveness.
For forgiveness.
After.
Yeah, just do it.
I've definitely done that where I know, you know, when you read something and they send you the character that you're going to audition for and you're like, I know that they're going to ask me to read for that one next, or that I'm more right for that. So I would, and I feel like that because I have a low voice and am like sarcastic sounding, and I used to have brown hair when I was in my early 20s. Like, low voice and brown hair equals 40 in this business. Like, and so whenever they would have me read, they're like, they want you to go in for Chloe, the ethereal 19-year-old, and her sister's name is Frances. She's 40, and I'd be like. I'd be like, I'm going to prepare Frances.
Prepared for anything.
Prepare for Frances.
And make your own work if you don't want to be on a television show. You can always direct your own movie.
Yeah, don't stop. Like, I call them dream snatchers. You know, people that told me, you see all the girls in wrestling, they're all like, 36, 24, 36. I had someone say to me, you can never make it in wrestling. You are too overweight to make it. You'll never make it. And I told them, watch this. So keep going.
Boom. Boom. And do people know about when you were a little girl you watched Glow? I think that's so cool.
Yeah, you asked about the process and how long it was. Like, it was a really long process. Mine was like 30 years because when I was 8 years old, I asked Santa Claus to make me a Glow girl. And, it took him a while because evidently Santa got jokes.
What is she talking about?
I'm a Glow girl.
Well, that's a perfect note to end this on. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out
tonight.
Thank you
all
so
for
coming.
coming out.
Glow Season 2, 2018.